Hey everyone, it's Kristen. We just did the psychology of supervillains in our last video series, and I found this one that I accidentally skipped over. I mean, granted, not all the Wizard magazines are going to have stuff that, we should talk about, but some of them do. Anyway, this one is actually the issue before, 87, and it talks about the 10 most dangerous supervillains, which kind of relates to what we just talked about, the psychology of supervillains. So I thought we should do this one because, I know I said we would talk about Batman No Man's Land next, but I found this one and thought, that really relates to what we literally just talked about. So we should definitely do that one instead. So the first thing, going back through these, because of course it's been a minute since I've looked through these again, but the first thing I noticed was this Lady Pendragon comic. So basically, honestly, I missed the boat on this one. I didn't even realize it, know about it, and it sounds really cool because it talks about how King Arthur's widowed queen, now has to fight on her own, and she fights against demons and basically other threats to history. It's not exactly, of course, perfectly tailored to the King Arthur myth and legends that we know. It has more of a supernatural twist, but I still think it sounds pretty cool. I mean, I will have to see if they sell like graphic novels of that or something, because it sounds really cool. It sounds like a really cool story, and it's even though it's not superhero per se, it still sounds really good to me. So this every October, Wizard did their costume contest, and they have winners, and unfortunately some people they kind of made fun of. Like you can see, there's a handful of men that are a little bit overweight, and like this guy who's dressed up as the Flash says, when you're super speedster, every moment without pie seems like an eternity. It's kind of mean. But and then they have more people that entered, and I mean pretty much everyone has a funny thought bubble. I won't say that they just make fun of the people that like are a little overweight, don't exactly perfectly fit the physique of a superhero, that sort of thing. I mean, like even these kids who look like maybe they're high school or something. The guy with the thought bubble above his head saying drama club was a huge mistake. Anyway, so, and then there's more. I mean, and this girl who plays Xena, or cosplayed as Xena, she looks a lot like Xena, a lot like Lucy Lawless right there. And then the winner did a couple of costumes. Creeper, Boba Fett, two others. Honestly, I don't know who these two guys are. Anyway, but like this just makes me think of how with today's culture, cosplaying is such a big part of it, especially because of all the superhero movies that have come out more recently, in more recent years. I think they would have a really hard time picking a winner, because there are amazing cosplayers out there. I mean, some of them just kind of blow you away with how good they are. And I didn't really know that much about Kiss, but they had a comic book. Gene Simmons, he collaborated with Todd McFarlane to do a Kiss comic book. It's called Psycho Circus. For those of you who don't know who Todd McFarlane is, he created Spawn, and he was part of Image Comics. Spawn honestly was one of the most popular comic book characters of the 90s. I mean, if you remember, we talked about the Spawn movie in, I think, 1997. And we talked about how, granted, it wasn't the best movie because, of course, the special effects then weren't what they are now. I mean, granted, of course, they're way better, but, kind of one of the first superheroes to get their own movie. I mean, that's how popular he was. And anyway, so apparently Kiss had a deal with Marvel in the 70s to produce a Kiss comic book, but Marvel didn't hold up their end of the bargain, so Gene went, elsewhere looking for this new comic book, and he went with Todd McFarlane because Todd is more hands-on, and in the article, Gene says that the less people that have their hands in on the project, the more money you make and the more control you have over it. So the premise of it, and there they are, which, kind of is interesting pictures. So it's called Psycho Circus, and right here. And the premise of it is the 4 members of Kiss form the 4-in-1 element, like elemental. And so because Peter, is the cat, so he represents nature. Ace is the star, he represents the cosmos. Paul is the heart, so he represents emotion. And Gene, of course, is the demon, which represents destruction, which is also can lead the way to new creation. So anyway, people come through this circus, this traveling circus, and pretty much all these people are outcast in one way or the other. Some are good, some are bad, and this circus helps them to inner reflect and find themselves. And depending on who they are, they either get rewarded or punished. Like, for example, one of the stories is they get a little boy away from his abusive father, and another one, an assassin, dies. But yeah, it's interesting because I didn't really know about that. I mean, like I said, it's been a while since I've read these, and of course when I bought them I was super young, so I skipped over quite a few stuff because I didn't even know what it was. So okay, so for the top 10 most dangerous villains, what they're focusing on, they're not talking about gods or elementals or celestials or anything like that. They're not talking about anti-heroes. They're just focusing on basically villains, people who, who kill people. First one is Bullseye. And as you can see, there's his most famous, basically, kill. He killed Elektra with her own weapon or her own sai, which that's pretty harsh. They were competing to be Kingpin's assassin, and yeah. So basically, Bullseye, kind of anything in his hands is a weapon, and he's a hired gun. He's an assassin. So he gets paid to kill people. That's why he's on the list. Next is Sabretooth. I'm sure a lot of you know him from, being Wolverine's adversary. And they're actually, quite a bit alike. Sabretooth is more bloodthirsty, and that's why he's on the list. He kills, no problem with killing. He's killed a lot of mutants. He was part of the Marauders who killed the Morlocks in the Morlocks tunnel, in the tunnels below New York City. He also has CIA training because he was in that program with Wolverine, the Weapon X program. And, he has a healing factor, an unbreakable laced adamantium skeleton. Anyway, so, basically versus Bullseye, no contest. I mean, Bullseye will get off a couple shots, but pretty much once he gets close, Bullseye's done for. And that's the issue, is that Sabretooth has to get close. He can't do long distance, he can't do long range, he has to get close. So 8 is Carnage, and you might be thinking, wow, 8 out of 10. Why doesn't he have a better spot? Well, the thing is about Carnage is that he he's bonded with Cletus Cassidy, and he is a killer, and he's a psychopath. There's no logic to anything he does. There's no pattern. There's no no coherent thought, basically. He's a wild card. You never know. Plus he has, his major weakness is if you use sonics on him to disrupt the connection, you can separate him, and then Cletus isn't really much of a threat to other superheroes or villains. But basically, when it comes to Sabretooth, he would overpower Sabretooth because he has he has more of it at his disposal. He's faster, he's shape-shifting, so he would destroy Sabretooth. Okay, so the Joker, and you might think, okay, well, why is the Joker 7? I mean, he's just kind of an ordinary guy. But as we talked about in the psychology of supervillains, he's killed thousands of people. Thousands. Like, he takes pleasure in killing people. He does this for fun. That's the only thing he's good at, like we talked about. So, and plus he's number 7 because Batman actually is afraid of him. The Joker terrifies Batman a little bit because the Joker has no moral compass, no remorse. Just, this is all fun games to him. And the way he usually kills his victims is he sets up elaborate traps, and he always has a plan B. He's always thinking ahead. He's very cunning. So with Bullseye, Sabretooth, Carnage, he would lure them into traps, and basically they would be done for because they're not smarter than him. So they would be, outmatched. But if he was in a situation where he had to face someone like one-on-one physically, no contest. I mean, really. And then number 6, another Batman villain, Ra's al Ghul. He is kind of like the evil Batman. He is a billionaire. He's a genius. He has his own League of Assassins. So basically, he doesn't like to get his hands dirty. He uses his League of Assassins to do most of the dirty work for him. So that's what he would do with Bullseye and Sabretooth, Carnage. He would just, have his goons take them out. Because they're expendable. His League of Assassin members are expendable. Nothing to worry about there. And he does have the Lazarus Pit, which, even if he dies, he basically, or is mortally wounded, he can just get in that thing and he is back to full health. Like finding a health potion in a video game. Boom, you're back to full health. Kind of crazy to put it that way, but yeah, that's what happened. With Joker, he knows his reputation. He knows how Batman feels about him, so he kind of wanted to see him face to face, and so he kind of, this says invite him to dinner, study him a little bit, and then just kill him, because like I said, Joker one-on-one, not expecting it, he wouldn't last very long. He wouldn't stand a chance. Like I said, this is 1998, so any supervillains that are on this list, it's based on the actions, from 1998 back on, so in the past. Doomsday. So he was one of the most famous storylines, I will say, of the 90s, the death of Superman. He is a unthinking, just mindless killing machine. He doesn't, he actually, even if he dies, he comes back immune to whatever it was that killed him. So it's really hard to kill him, which is what happened, with the death of Superman storyline. Doomsday won. He killed him. But, okay, like I've talked about, comic books are like soap operas, and like on soap operas, nobody stays dead. Like hardly anyone ever stays dead. So, of course, Superman was resurrected. But at the time, oh, and I forgot, yeah, I'm wearing my Superman shirt today. I have a lot of comic book shirts. I don't know if you've noticed them, but I have a lot. I have quite a collection. Maybe one of these days I'll make a quilt out of them or something. I don't know. But pretty much if I'm not in a dress, because I like to wear dresses, oddly enough, I'm in a comic book t-shirt and shorts or jeans. Anyway, sorry. I digress. The death of Superman, a storyline, everyone was like, oh my gosh, and thought this was real. Because remember, Superman's been around since 1938. And everyone was kind of like buying up copies of the Death of Superman storyline and buying up back issues because they just thought, okay, this is it. And these comic books are going to be worth a ton of money. Remember, we talked about that in my other videos, how people were just buying multiple issues of one comic book, whether it's because variant copies or they thought that the comic book would be worth a lot someday. And the bottom almost fell out of the market because people were doing that, and they thought they had more comic book readers than they actually had, so they printed a ton, and if it wasn't a so-called important issue, then people didn't buy as many. So they were, for a while, not understanding why they didn't have the readership that they thought they had. So anyway, so against Doomsday, Bullseye would have no chance. Like, no chance at all. Sabretooth, yeah, I mean, he might get one hit, maybe. Carnage. Okay, interesting about Carnage is the symbiote is it has a mind of its own. So he would see Doomsday and be like, hey, that guy's way better than this guy. That guy's way stronger than this guy. So he'd jump ship and join with Doomsday. And, I can't even imagine what that would look like. I mean, that'd be crazy. Like, yeah. I mean, just even Doomsday being as strong as he is would be 10 times stronger because he has Carnage, too, with the Carnage symbiote. So that would be crazy. Joker, his death traps would do nothing against Doomsday. Raish, yeah. I think he would try to capture him, to study him. That's what they're saying here. And, yeah. I mean, if Doomsday knew about the Lazarus Pit, then he would probably destroy that too. But if he didn't necessarily know about it, then, Raish could come back and try again. But if he did know about it and destroyed it, then yeah, he'd be done for. So the number one supervillain, the number one most dangerous supervillain, honestly surprised me, and it might surprise a lot of people because it surprised me because, well, I'll explain it when we get there. So number 4, Thanos, which people are probably like, okay, yeah, I see that. And this is the comic book version of Thanos. not the movie version, but you know, it's still basically talking about the same storyline. But in the comic book, Thanos was obsessed with death, like the embodiment of death. Like death was an actual physical woman to him, and he wanted to impress her, and so that's why he wanted to basically give her the gift of many people, like many deaths, because she's death, and so he thought she would be impressed if he killed the most people ever. So, you know, he killed half the world with the snap. Yes, that did happen in the comic books. But how it happens in the comic books is different because, honestly, all the heroes die. All of them. And what happens is Adam Warlock and Silver Surfer kind of save the day. And so Thanos basically replaces Eternity in the sky, takes his place, and he's like the embodiment of the universe in the multiverse. Comic books are complicated. So once he has done that, he, you know, rises up, takes his place, you know, in the universe sort of thing. All this time, in the beginning, he had Nebula, his, you know, daughter, and he turned her into this living statue, like half alive, half not, just like basically in that in-between stage in order to impress Death, but Death was not impressed. So that's when he did the Infinity Gauntlet. He searched for the gems, and, you know, so he could kill half the universe, you know, no problem. So what happened is Nebula, after enduring months of torture, pain by Thanos, she actually seizes control of the glove, because once he takes his place as Eternity, he leaves his mortal body behind, and she, in her, you know, half alive state, actually goes over to Thanos, takes the glove off, takes it for herself. And so what happens eventually is that Adam Warlock convinces her to take it off, and then he, you know, sets everything back to the way it was. But so the Thanos in the comic books, he actually is a little bit, I will say, insecure, because here he is trying to impress, insecure and unstable, because here he is trying to impress somebody else. Like, his opinion of himself rests on the opinion of somebody else, and like trying to impress Death. I mean, you know, Death, like, in his mind is a real, like, person, real woman, and you know, she's not impressed. So for one thing, I mean, you know, Bullseye, a Sabretooth, you know, no problem. Carnage, again, you know, sonic disruptors, you know, that would be easy to take care of. Joker, any death trap that he's done, Thanos has already done, so, you know, wouldn't be fooled by that. Ra's al Ghul, so, you know, he would be intrigued by him because he wants to basically cleanse the world of everybody and start over, with only a select few people that he has chosen. But of course, Thanos is thinking globally. Sorry. So he would be intrigued, but of course he wouldn't keep him. And then once he found out about the Lazarus Pit, well, you know, of course he would want that, and he would use that. Doomsday, what he would do is realize, well, I can't beat this guy, you know, through just brute strength, physical force, so he'd drop him in a black hole, which is a pretty good idea. And that leaves him as a problem for somebody else. So, yeah. I mean, makes sense, I guess. So, the next video, we're going to do the last 3. So, I hope you'll stay tuned for those. And like I said, you will be surprised by who's number 1. I was surprised. I don't know if I was surprised when I first read this article. Like I said, it's been a while. But I was definitely surprised rereading it because I had forgotten about a lot of stuff. So I hope you join me for the next video so you can find out who's number one. Until then, bye.